ChatGPT Work and Claude Cowork both claim they can do more than answer a question. They can work across files, plan complex tasks, and create finished deliverables. So I gave both of them the exact same executive job. 3 messy source files, conflicting instructions, a budget problem hidden across 2 documents, and a last-minute change from the CFO. The test was not just which one could make the prettier slide deck. It was which one would I trust to prepare work for the executive team. And by the end, the difference came down to something every business leader needs to understand about AI agents. I'm Sadie St. Lawrence. I've spent the last decade working in AI, data, and organizational transformation. And I think the most important AI question is changing. It's no longer just which AI model gives the best answer. It's about which system can reliably turn a goal into a finished work while keeping a human in control. This is what I wanted to test. This video is not sponsored, and this is not a universal benchmark. It is one controlled, repeatable work test. ChatGPT Work is OpenAI's agent for longer, multi-step work. It can work across files and tools, create documents, spreadsheets, slides, and other finished materials, and then continue working while you monitor or redirect it. Claude Cowork brings Claude's agentic capabilities to knowledge work beyond coding. It can analyze files, coordinate substacks, create professional outputs, and keep working through a longer assignment. Those descriptions sound very similar, and that's because they are. But a product promise is not the same thing as work quality. So I tested both of them. Instead of giving them a trivial question or a one-page prompt, I built a test that looks much more like an executive assignment. The assignment is called Project Meridian, a fictional 90-day AI skills accelerator. You see, each agent will receive the same exact brief, the same leadership meeting notes, and the same budget spreadsheet. Then their job is to create 3 finished deliverables: an executive decision memo, a 5-slide presentation, and an action tracker. But the source files were intentionally messy, just like any good AI project. The executive brief proposed 120 participants. The meeting notes requested 150. The brief also used an October 6th launch date, whereas legal said October 20th was the earliest realistic date. The budget looked like it was under $150,000 ceiling, but the meeting notes cited $150,000 stipend per person. The notes also showed that the security review was incomplete. Leadership disregarded about who should participate, and no one owned the baseline measurement. A good-looking presentation was not enough. An agent had to reconcile the sources, reallocate the numbers, identify which one is still unresolved, and recommend to leadership what they should do. To keep this fair, I used a fresh session. The same files, the exact same prompt, and the same scoring criteria. Neither agent could browse the web or use external connectors. Both were allowed to plan, ask necessary clarifying questions, and create the final files. I didn't impose an artificial speed limit. I recorded the elapsed time, but accuracy and the decision quality mattered more to me first. Then, after the first round, I gave both agents one identical revision request. First, I started with ChatGPT Work and uploaded the complete source packet. The prompt told it to act as an executive strategy analyst, explain its plan before creating anything, and ask only necessary questions and use only attached files. Then I let it work. As promised, I watched for 5 things. Did it open all of the used 3 files? Did it notice the conflict? Did it recalculate the budget? Did it avoid inventing missing owners, dates, or approvals? And did the memo, slides, and tracker actually agree with one another? When finished, I downloaded every file and reviewed the actual work. I did not scope the output based on how polished the first page looked. I checked the recommendations, the calculations, the source use, the unresolved decisions, and the consistency across all 3 deliverables. Then I reset the experiment and gave Claude Cowork the exact same 3 files with the same assignment. Again, it was allowed to plan, ask questions, but it could not use the web or any outside information. I reviewed it against the same 5 tests: completed source use, conflict detection, budget accuracy, restraint around missing information, and consistency across the final artifact. I also paid attention to how each system behaved while it worked. Did it make the reasoning and progress easy to follow? Did it pause when the source packet was genuinely ambiguous? Could I redirect it without losing the threat of assignment? That distinction matters because a useful coworker is not simply a system that produces a file. It's a system that helps you understand what it is doing, where it is uncertain, and what still requires your judgment. Before I show you the score, here's the most important accuracy check to test. The submitted spreadsheet showed $133,100 for 120 participants, but the meeting notes required $150 stipend per person. That adds $18,000, bringing the true total to $151,100. The supposedly under budget plan is actually $1,100 over budget. So for 150 participants, the spreadsheet showed $141,350. Add the $22,500 stipend, and the full loaded total becomes $163,850. That's $13,850 all over budget. This is exactly why executive work cannot be evaluated on fluency or visual pulse alone. A beautiful recommendation built in an incomplete number is still a bad recommendation. Okay, quick pause. If you want more practical AI experiments like this, I break down what is changing in AI, what it means for your work, and how to use it in my weekly newsletter. You can join me through the link below. And now back to the test. The CFO said the program must include 150 participants, remain under $150,000 all in, and launch no later than October 20th. That means that the agent cannot simply rewrite the memo. It has to recognize the current 150-person plan, the $13,850 over budget, and make an explicit trade-off. It can change the delivery mode or reduce part of the scope, but it cannot silently remove the requirement. And any change has to appear consistent in the memo, presentation, tracker, and budget logic. So I gave both systems the exact same revision request and reviewed the revised work against the same standard. All right, who's ready for the verdict? After scoring every category, Claude Cowork was the winner for this assignment. It earned the stronger weighted result and produced a more decision-ready final product. ChatGPT Work still produced useful work, but it missed the requirement and the executive correction. This is the deciding factor, not the polish, but whether it stayed correct. And for this job, Claude Cowork earned more of my trust. I would not turn one synthetic assignment into a universal product ranking. Models change, products change, and the right one depends on your work, the data, the integrations, and the controls your organization needs. But this test does reveal how I would evaluate any AI agent before trusting it with really important work. First, give it a task with a verifiable correct answer, not just an open-ended one with a writing assignment. Second, plant realistic conflicts and omissions. You need to know whether the system reconciles sources or simply follows the easiest path. Third, test revisions behavior. Real work changes after the first draft. And fourth, review the entire chain of work. A memo, a spreadsheet, a presentation can each look reasonable while quietly disagreeing with each other. Both of these systems can compress hours of synthesis and document productization, but neither should be treated as an unattended executive decision. The human still has to define the success, protect sensitive information, check assumptions, evaluate trade-offs, and most importantly, own the decision. This is the real shift happening in AI. We are moving from prompting a model to answering and orchestrating systems that complete work. This skill is not writing the cleverest prompt, it's about designing the task, giving the right context, checking the evidence, and knowing where human judgment belongs. If you had to choose one today, which one would you trust with your work? ChatGPT Work or Claude Cowork? Tell me in the comments and tell me a real-world job that I should try next. And be sure to subscribe if you want practical AI experiments without the hype. I will see you in the next video.